Power Station at Berkeley NYC presents the Studio Spotlight with Ian Kagey.
Ebonie Smith is a producer, engineer, songwriter, and activist based in New York City and is a true Renaissance woman. Starting out her career freelancing after her studies at Barnard and NYU, she became a house engineer and producer for Atlantic Records, which led her to bring two of their state-of-the-art studios online, as well as recording countless great artists and assisting on the monumental Hamilton Broadway cast recording. When she was in her senior year of college, Ebonie started a non-for-profit called Gender Amplified to address the inequality and imbalance that exists between women and men in the music industry. Beginning as her senior thesis project and hosting the inaugural event on campus, she grew the project into doing live events, master classes, and production and songwriting camps, all with the mission of inspiring young women to get involved in being behind the scenes in the music industry. I got to sit down with Ebonie to talk about her work at Atlantic, her work with Gender Amplified, and so much more. Please enjoy. Did you start when the studios existed at Atlantic already, or were you there when they were opened, or what's the story behind the studios there?
You know, when I started, the studio was a converted office. But funny enough, I jumped in and I started doing everything. I was the only engineer. So I did everything from radio liners to acoustic content sessions with Panic at the Disco, some of Melanie Martinez's very, very early acoustic content sessions. Oh, goodness, who else? Michael Pollock, who's a hit songwriter, Maroon 5, and so many other artists. I remember when he came in as a kid, I would engineer his sessions. At the top of 2015 was when we moved into the new space. So I had a year and a half of basic training. Then I was off into the deep end because the first project that came in was Hamilton. And so we were off to the races, and we haven't really slowed down since, apart from COVID-19.
And then what would you say is at Atlantic has been the most, well, I'll ask you, I guess, two questions, which one is what's your favorite project you've worked on at Atlantic? And then second question would be what's the project you've learned the most from Atlantic? And those could be the same thing, but they may be different projects.
Probably Hamilton, because it taught me, it set the bar so high. It taught me the importance of prep. They were ready. They came in. They didn't have any issues. They came in. They worked very hard, sometimes 10 hours a day, sometimes 18 hours a day. And they worked so hard. And we had two rooms going at once. We set it up to be that efficient. So you had mixing happening in one room and you had comping happening in another room. And so there was a lot of activity, but there was also a lot of productivity. Also, as far as Alex Lacamoire and his genius, I learned a lot about composition just listening to the work.
Can you talk a little bit about Gender Amplified?
Gender Amplified is my only child. It is my senior thesis project from Barnard. Our organization now, we're a 501c3. And we've just kind of grown. As my career has grown, I've kind of taken it with me. And so now it continues to grow because at each level of my career, I've seen similar issues. So the disparities with respect to women and men in the studio. So Gender Amplified as an organization, we look very critically at that. And our mission statement is just to expand and advance women in the audio field and music production. Our live events, I think, are really the fabric of Gender Amplified, which is why today has been quite challenging, but we're pivoting and trying to find ways of using virtual communication and social media to still engage and activate young women in particular, because we want them to start when they're young. One of the things that I think affects women's inability to advance in music production is the fact that so many of us create in isolation. We don't have peers. When you put it in those terms, when it comes to women in production, it's important that we have community. If there's no community, then it's hard to just be in isolation, making something on your own. So I think that's something that Gender Amplified has been able to do through our events, is create these environments where people can find their people. They go make stuff together. And sometimes I hear about it, sometimes I don't, but I'm always grateful when I hear that a songwriter met a producer at a Gender Amplified event, or an engineer found an artist, or, whatever. Like it's just, that's what I'm talking about. And when women show up for each other, it makes that so much easier to do.
Along those lines, what is What is some advice that you'd give to somebody that was entering the field now, based on your experience so far?
I say this all the time. You just have to have self-value. It's so, our industry is really tough because it's built around celebrity and it's built around a lot of things that in the grand scheme don't matter so much. The music matters a great deal, but there's a lot that goes on within the industry with respect to politics, with respect to media, with respect to imaging and all types of things that makes it can erode at the soul. So grounding is very important. And I don't know how you stay grounded or how you decompress, but you have to find a way. The second bit of advice I would mention is that you're just going to be learning all the time. You're never going to get ahead of it. You're always going to be learning. And the educational aspect to this particular thing is so critical. And I think it's one of the reasons why I enjoy it so much, because I can never learn enough. And it doesn't matter who the education comes from. If it's an intern, I probably pay more attention to interns than I do executives. It's because they always have the newest set of knowledge. And the third thing I would say lastly is, and this is something that I'm always working on, is just, I guess, being open with respect to knowing that everybody is valuable. It doesn't matter who they are. Everybody is valuable. The person that's mopping the place and the person that's running the place. You just never know. You never know who can change your life in the music business. So being nice to everybody, being respectful, you're not always going to have a good day. But if you can try to muster up enough of a face to make sure that you're being respectful to people, you don't have to be fake or phony, but making sure you're being respectful, because I think that's the basic thing we can always give each other is respect.
Thanks again to Ebonie Smith. To find out what music she's been working on, visit eboniesmith.com. To find out about her great work with Gender Amplified, visit genderamplified.org.